And wouldn't you know it, this guy arguing with her, this guy yelling at her, this guy getting angry at her for saying something dumb, isn't this guy being angry, this guy maybe being a little bit out of line. It actually lines up with what Ocasio-Cortez already believes. Isn't that weird how that always happens? It's like everything, no matter what the information is always going to confirm what she already believes. So, of course, you could already see this title from The Guardian. It's like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, powerful response to Republican sexist attack. So I'm unfortunately going to have to undercut this right away before we even play 1 second of this Guardian video. There was nothing sexist about the attack. Like, you can call somebody crazy, dangerous to the public, and say that they're wrong, that the spike in crime is due to people needing bread before you... and that's not sexist. Like, you can disagree with a woman, yell at her, even get angry at a woman, and that's not sexist. Is this like lacking decorum or decorum? Sure. Is this like, was this like a racial or sexual, like sexist attack, sexual attack? Jesus. But honestly, like, to keep it real, they were talking about this like Ocasio-Cortez was physically assaulted by Ted Yoho. And should Ted Yoho had been yelling at her, like, Ted Yoho is from Florida, and his disagreement with her was that she said that crime, the big crime spike, which is primarily shootings in New York City, was caused by people needing bread for their family, right? And some of these shooting videos, I can't even remotely dream of showing them to you on Twitch, but you should go on Twitter and look for them if you're interested in seeing the context. These are clearly like hits being put out on people. So, yeah. Total nonsense. So this is the uncensored version, so you'll hear Ocasio-Cortez's dramatic performance, and I'm very impressed by her acting ability and her ability to get attention. So we're going to play this video. Powerful response.
Representative Yoho put his finger in my face. He called me disgusting. He called me crazy. He called me out of my mind.
So already we got the delivery. She's like running through the insults. He called me disgusting. He called me crazy. He called me out of my mind. And, you know, she's really leaning into this because this is a big moment for her. Like, this is where a lefty gets to do her favorite possible thing, which is play the victim. By the way, all those are kind of accurate descriptors of Ocasio-Cortez, not saying anything, I'm just saying. Like, should you say them to one congressperson to another congressperson? Again, especially when it's about her description of crime in a city to which you're not a representative from? No. It's just a bad move because it lets her grandstand and play the victim and raise money and pretend that she's being attacked for being a woman of color. So, you know, New York congressperson says this to her, a little bit different.
And he called me dangerous.
True.
In front.
She's a commie. That's dangerous. One of the most dangerous ideologies humanly possible. And they just did a cut right there. So, like, we're missing some of the dramatic nature of this performance. So I do apologize for that. Also, is the woman behind her right here? I'm not even going to ask that question. I was going to ask if that was maybe she, like, brought one of her relatives there, because she talked about, like, both of her parents in this. So I was thinking maybe she brought one of them, but I don't know. Like, because, you know, I'm basing this solely on the fact that, like, the woman behind her doesn't look like she works there. You know what I mean? But it could be hot in there because this guy has his jacket off, so I could be mistaken. That could be another representative. So, thoughts? Somebody says she needs new lipstick. Okay, relevant thoughts? No mask. I mean, she doesn't have a mask, but she's just going up and putting her face in this microphone that all these other congresspeople put them on. And she's indoors. It's not like the masks are more effective indoors than outdoors. But yeah, okay. Let me get rid of that Navy video.
In front of reporters, Representative Yoho called me, and I quote, a fucking bitch.
One more time. Once more with feeling, Alexandria.
Bitch. Fucking bitch. Yoho called me, and I quote, a fucking bitch.
Burn. That aired on C-SPAN, guys. People are saying true, true, true. Obviously, language warning for this. Yeah. Horrible. Obviously, that hurt. Obviously, that has the punch. I should say that Yoho denies this specific thing. I mean, it's neither here nor there, but it is funny, like how she's going to turn this into a giant fundraising thing. And of course, a pity party for Ocasio-Cortez.
These are the words that Representative Yoho levied against a congresswoman, the congresswoman that not only represents New York's 14th congressional district, but every congresswoman and every woman in this country.
Every congresswoman and every woman in this country. He insults me, or he insults her, for saying something ridiculous. Specifically, her, for saying something specifically ridiculous, and for her other previous actions. But this was all spawned based on something she said. And it's an insult not just to her, but to every congresswoman and every single woman in America. Even though there are women in America that can't stand her, it's an insult to them. Yoho is a no-no. Shameful. I wish I had that clip queued up of her saying shameful. The greed. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Because all of us have had to deal with this in some form, some way, some shape, at some point.
She messed that up. It's some way, shape, or form. She said some form, some way, some shape. Alex, you're not getting your lines right. If you don't get your lines right, call out to your production assistant. Say line, and somebody will feed you the line. And by the way, if she actually did that and rephrased it, like The Guardian edited this down to be a sharper critique. Like the real video, which I'm not going over because it's longer and it's not as entertaining, but the real video is right here from C-SPAN. It's 10 minutes long. The Guardian edited this down. We've already seen a cut. So they're making this more sharp so they could have it be a powerful response, which, by the way, they need to work on their Tim Pool clickbait titles. This powerful needs to be in all caps. But and so does sexist, and so does attack. But yeah, she did mess that up. Just saying.
In our lives. And I want to be clear that Representative Yoho's comments were not deeply hurtful or piercing to me. I have encountered words uttered by Mr. Yoho and men uttering the same words as Mr. Yoho while I was being harassed in restaurants. I have tossed men out of bars that have used language like Mr.
She's asked people to leave and then had security toss them out. Look, I'm not personally offended. It didn't pierce my skin. I mean, sure, I'm playing the victim right now for sympathy in public. And sure, I'm going back through my long, devastating history of being called names by men. Which, by the way, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like, she's in New York. She's probably been catcalled her whole life. Like, you know, since she was like 16 and up, right? That's how it works, right? She was working in Manhattan. She was working in a bar like near where a bunch of Wall Street finance guys go. So they also tipped her extraordinarily well, right? Let's get that out of there. She's a pretty girl working the bar in a restaurant where a bunch of rich clients go. Like, I know people who have like legitimate established careers that have married waiters at those bars, like, you know, nurses, right? That have married waiters at those bars because the waiter at the bar makes more money than the nurse, because that's how generous these people tip in those places. So like, she's highlighting all the negative, but like, let's be 100% clear. She has received the overwhelming benefits of being a female and a bartender in New York City her entire life. Like, got it? Okay, so people are saying she's not pretty. Like, look, you can say that, that's fine. Like, Ocasio-Cortez fits like the quadrants. Remember, she worked at the bar when she was younger. Like, she fits the quadrants of an attractive person. In terms of Washington, D.C., she's leagues ahead of people there, right? You know, Like, we can all make fun of her policies. We can all talk about how goofy she is. You can find a picture of her looking bug-eyed with her teeth out and all that. But, like, that's neither here nor there. Like, she's attractive by, like, normal standards. And she's incredibly attractive by Washington, D.C. politician standards. And what helps her in that is she's literally the youngest woman in Washington, D.C. as a congressional representative. So, like, everybody calm down. Like, not having that debate.
Mr. Yoho's. And I have encountered this type of harassment riding the subway in New York City. This is not new. And that is the problem. Mr. Yoho was not alone. He was walking shoulder to shoulder with Representative Roger Williams. And that's
all right. Again, she's like expanding this out. First of all, she wasn't harassed on the subway. First of all, he didn't harass her. He yelled at her and called her names. It was rude. It's outside of what is typical for congressional decorum, although there are plenty of other instances where people yell and swear at each other. Like, John McCain is notorious, well, was notorious as a potty mouth in Capitol Hill. Like, he would curse at people, he'd swear at them, he'd call them all kinds of names behind closed doors. You never saw a representative that John McCain yelled at, cursed out over some ridiculous policy, all of a sudden, like, do a grandstandy speech about how, you know, I was called a piece of human, you know, not going to use the swear word because I'm classy. And John McCain really hurt my feelings. But here's the thing. There's a lot of people on the floor of this House that have been called that. And not only on the floor of this House or the floor of the Senate, but nationwide that have been called that. And John McCain's insult doesn't only affect me. It affects every single person in my random category in the world. And it's indicative of a larger problem. Also, here's some unrelated stuff about me being hit on when I was on the train because I'm attractive in New York City. Like, that doesn't happen. No male congressperson would ever imagine for that to happen. Nobody would say, and John McCain, when he said this, was near Lindsey Graham. Like, you know, because John McCain was always near Lindsey Graham. Or what's the other guy? Joe Lieberman, which was the Democrat that John McCain really liked. But, like, look at how, like, you know, look at how serious this is. Like, look at her face. You could tell this is dead serious for her. This is her moment. Everybody, don't take the shine away from her. You know what I realized I didn't do? I forgot to change the title of my Twitch stream. I'm going to do that now, even though we're already basically done with this video. But okay.
That's when we start to see that this issue is not about one incident. It is.
No, it literally is about one incident, Ocasio-Cortez. You're trying to make it a systemic issue. Even if this person, this congressman, was near him and heard him yelling at you or heard him saying whatever you accuse him of saying, like, that's literally two people. This is the definition of an isolated incident. Like, this guy from Florida, Ted Yoho, this, like, boomer guy who's mad at you because you're a communist and you're saying ridiculous things on TV, has no connection whatsoever to people trying to hit on you, and aggressively and rudely. By the way, I've seen this in person. I'm not trying to downplay it. On the subway or at bars. Like, it's completely different context. One, the Yoho one, is literally about things that you've said and actions that you've taken. The other one is solely based on your appearance. Like, completely different. Like, could not be more different.
It's cultural. It is a culture of lack of impunity, of accepting of violence.
Accepting of violence. Okay, so words are now violence. They were literally saying that he, like, verbally assaulted her or verbally accosted her, like, making the connection that it was violence, like, in the headlines. But I do want to look something up because I think I know that she's wrong. No, you know what? I'm not even going to look it up. So she just said lack of impunity, right? when you do something with impunity, that means that you're not fearing any consequences, or like, you're that's not, a lack of impunity would be the opposite. Like exemption from punishment, right? So a lack of impunity literally means that you do fear that you're going to be punished. Like that's just bad. You're really butchering your lines, Alexandria. You're emoting well, but you're really like, you're not sticking to the script as the writers wrote it. Remember, like you're not an improviser. You got to write it. You got to read what the writers wrote for you. But yeah, this is ridiculous. And she's literally going to spin this into violence. Like she has to ham it up. She can't possibly like keep it where it is, because it's bad enough he was rude to her.
And violent language against women.
Violent language, no such thing. This is a congresswoman who took an oath to uphold the Constitution. The Bill of Rights is part of the Constitution. And look, she's getting a little watery in the eyes, so she is selling the performance.
In an entire structure of power that supports that. I want to thank him for showing the world that you can be a powerful man and accost women.
I want to thank him for showing the world. Like, isn't it weird how no matter what the incident is, like, no matter what, if it's getting rid of certain police units that Ocasio-Cortez supported getting rid of, and that leads to a crime spike, how that automatically adds up to Ocasio-Cortez being right, because the crime spike is actually not due to them getting rid of the anti-crime unit, which is laser focused on preventing shootings, and you see a spike in shootings. It's actually due to the fact that there's poverty, because that confirms what Ocasio-Cortez already believes. And wouldn't you know it, this guy arguing with her, this guy yelling at her, this guy getting angry at her for saying something dumb, isn't this guy being angry, this guy maybe being a little bit out of line. It actually lines up with what Ocasio-Cortez already believes. Isn't that weird how that always happens? It's like everything, no matter what the information is always going to confirm what she already believes. This is why people call like the SJWs, the social justice types, this is why they call them religious, because this is how they act. They act like they're in a cult.
You can have daughters and accost women without remorse. You can be married and accost women. You can take photos and project an image to the world of being a family man and accost women without remorse and with a sense of impunity.
Oh, see, so now she has a sense of impunity. So there was also another part in there, that's not in this clip, where she says, "I'm glad my father isn't alive today to like see what you called me, and I have to show the world that I am their kids." I'm like, yeah, I'd rather my parents be alive and them hear about some guy calling me a name this one time than not have that. So, you know, somebody's asking like, what is her point? Her point is to grandstand. Her point is to get the Guardian to put up a video about how Ocasio-Cortez had a powerful response to Ted Yoho saying something. What's really crazy is like they can never press her to address the underlying issue. Like there was no thought even to ask her follow-up questions related to the ridiculous thing that she said about crime. But as soon as somebody challenges her in like not the cleanest way, not the most intelligent way, especially if you're a congressperson, then it's a national story. And this has been a story for like days. Like, let's break down what happened. Two people of equal power. In fact, Ocasio-Cortez has more power. She's the most famous person in Congress in the entire country. This woman bullies the majority leader, Nancy Pelosi, into coming in line with her. The squad is part of the people that pushed Nancy Pelosi into an impeachment that she wasn't really interested in doing because she didn't think it was a politically savvy maneuver. So this woman in the majority party, the more powerful person in the relationship, like in the exchange, because she's the most famous woman in Congress, got called some mean names by another congressperson. Some of the mean names she didn't even hear herself, and they were alleged to be called by this person by some reporters that were nearby that said that they overheard him talking trash about her after she left. That's what happened to Ocasio-Cortez. It's been a story for 3 days. They've been rioting in Portland for 56 days straight. People have been injured. The media is still denying that. She gets to play victim, her favorite role, and the media gets to cheerlead her, again, their favorite role, and nobody looks at the underlying thing that actually happened. And by the way, again, is it professional to call somebody who's like your colleague, even though they're your political opposition? No. But to pretend that she's like some meek victim and that this is not only an insult to her for saying something dumb specifically, which it was, but it's an insult to all congresswomen, and specifically all congresswomen or all women across the country, is ridiculous. And Yoho did the, oh, I have a wife and I have a daughter and all that, which he shouldn't have done. He should have said, if he felt like he did something wrong, which I think he did apologize for, then he should apologize and move on, right? Deny parts that aren't legit, that get exaggerated over time, but move on, right? Or even deflect. Like if Ocasio-Cortez calls somebody a name, she calls somebody corrupt or whatever, and like she lies, she's completely wrong, then she just deflects. She's like, you're more mad about me saying something that was factually incorrect and ridiculous than you are about starving children in the country or whatever. Like Ocasio-Cortez did a video where she claimed that something like 18 million Americans were living in extreme poverty in this country. Extreme poverty is defined by the UN as making under $1.50 a day. If you think 18 million Americans live in extreme poverty when they're making under $1.50 to $2 a day, like that's actually a real thing, you're a ridiculous person. She said it. Like homeless people in this country don't even make under $2 a day. And we don't have that many homeless people. So she says ridiculous stuff all the time. Nobody calls her out on it. This was the most inelegant way to do so, but this is like a non-story. And yet it's been a story for 3 days straight. So, the U.S. has 9 to 10. The U.S. has 9 to 10 billion under the poverty level. Also, our poverty level is a little bit ridiculous because if you look at our poverty line, every year that the Soviet Union existed, their median income was always below our poverty line. So we have a relative poverty line.